Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into the absolute masterclass of suspense and atmosphere that is the terrifying story, The Haunting of Room 307. Now, we aren't just going to tell you a ghost story today. We are going to break down exactly how this narrative engineers fear, step by step, using setting, psychology, and some seriously clever pacing. So, let's jump right in. Right off the bat, this terrifying legend from the village elders sets our stakes. Notice how the story doesn't just say midnight or the witching hour. It uses a highly specific, totally arbitrary time, 3:07 a.m., to build this inescapable sense of dread. When a story gives you an exact time like that, it's basically planting a ticking clock in the back of your mind from the very first sentence. It is an exact appointment with terror. Section 1. The Mystery of Room 307. We start by looking back at the abandoned Hotel Himshikar in Himachal Pradesh in 1998. And this whole countdown to terror, it actually unfolds across 4 very distinct timestamps. It maps out the narrative like a ticking clock, and we're going to follow it step by step as the tension ramps up. Moving right into Section 2, Warning and Entry. Let's see who's brave or foolish enough to go inside. So here's the setup. We've got Aryan, a YouTuber from Delhi who's chasing viral fame, arriving at the hotel with his friends Rohit and their cameraman Saurabh. And they immediately clash with the hotel's terrified 70-year-old manager. It's this brilliant, classic horror clash, right? You have the influencer's arrogant, boundary-pushing curiosity on one side, and the local elder's deep-rooted, traditional terror on the other. The manager actually begs them not to open the room, warning them that some doors are better left closed. You know that moment in a horror story where you are practically yelling at the screen? This is it. But like any classic horror protagonists, they completely ignore the danger because, well, a deadly warning is basically just an invitation for more views. Okay, so they finally pry open the door, and the story instantly stacks these physical details to create a really hostile atmosphere. It engages all your senses. You've got this unnatural, freezing cold air hitting them. Then there are deep scratch marks, and here is the really terrifying detail. The scratches are on the inside of the door, meaning something was desperately trying to get out. Add in a broken mirror and a wall clock that's permanently stuck at 3:07, and you've got a room that feels like a trap. This brings us to our first timeline marker. At exactly 10 p.m., Saurabh's fully charged camera inexplicably blacks out for a few seconds. Aryan just laughs it off, but this is actually the narrative stripping away their modern armor. Their tech, their proof, their whole connection to the outside world, it's already starting to fail them. Which brings us to Section 3, Terrifying Midnight. The room is waking up. The groundwork is fully laid, and as the clock strikes 12 a.m., the psychological terror starts to physically manifest. Everything seems normal. And then there's a sudden, slow knock at the door. Aryan, being the confident guy he is, marches over and throws the door open, expecting to bust a prankster. But there's absolutely no one there. Just this long, empty corridor bathed in a sickly yellow light. And honestly, that eerie emptiness is way scarier than a monster jumping out. His buddy Rohit immediately tries to logically dismiss the sound as a joke, which, let's be real, is a classic human coping mechanism. Our brains will try to rationalize the irrational right up until the exact moment it becomes impossible to deny. And that impossibility hits them just seconds later. As the door closes, they catch a glimpse of this brief, unexplainable reflection in the broken mirror, a woman wearing a white sari. But the moment they whip around, the room is completely empty. It's a masterfully executed jump scare tactic because it proves to the characters that their own physical senses can no longer be trusted. The room is playing games with them. Now we hit Section 4, The Terror of 307, Total Darkness. At 2:45 a.m., the lights completely fail, plunging them into pitch black. Now the audio design of the story totally takes over. First, you hear this distant, haunting echo of a child crying in the hallway. Then, the sharp jingling sound of anklets getting closer and closer until it's right outside the door. And finally, total dead silence. The suspense here is literally suffocating. And then, the exact moment we've been dreading since the very first slide finally arrives. That permanently broken wall clock, the one that hasn't worked in years, it suddenly begins ticking on its own. And every single tick acts like an escalating heartbeat for the scene. Without anyone touching it, the heavy wooden door slowly starts to creak open. The entity is finally revealed, but the story pulls a brilliant bait and switch on us here. Because of the mirror earlier, we're totally primed to expect a woman in a white sari. Instead, standing in the doorway is a little girl. But her eyes are pitch black, and she's tightly holding this old, decaying teddy bear. It completely subverts your expectations and makes the whole thing deeply unsettling. She looks up and asks one chilling question. Will you play with me? It is the ultimate, horrifying payoff to all that suspense. And the very second she speaks, the camera's recording abruptly cuts to black. We are left completely in the dark, right there alongside the characters. We're going to end this explainer right there on that provocative note. By breaking down this timeline, the sensory manipulation, and the isolation, we can see exactly how a story like this gets under our skin. But the real question is, what's the ultimate price of arrogant viral curiosity? Did Aryan and his friends make it out? Or did their obsession with views cost them everything? It's a masterful lesson in suspense that definitely leaves you wanting more. Thanks for hanging out with me for this explainer. And remember, some doors really are better left closed.